The production on If You're Reading This Is Too Late is timeless and sounds like it just came out last year. In this video, we're gonna uncover how Boi-1da made those incredible beats. First, let's take a listen to 10 bands.
10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands, fuck it, man.
As you can hear, there are lots of bells on this album, so we used one to start our beat, playing a dark melody. Notice how the melody goes down and then back up the scale. This is a trick used on 10 bands and No Tellin, where both melodies were made by Frank Dukes. Next, I sped the sample up to 173 BPM. A lot of the beats on this album use tempos in that area. Then I wanted to give it a more vintage sampled feel, like on the second half of Know Yourself.
I was running through the 6 with my woes. You know how that shit go.
To match that slow vibe, I time stretched the sample to half speed and then began chopping it. This sounds great, but if we go back to 10 bands, you can hear some more bounce in the melody. To achieve this sound, I played the same chords with a different bell sound and processed them in a completely different way. First, I added a halftime, then a shaper box, really making it move, and an EQ, taking away a lot of the high end. Next, let's see how Boi-1da does his famous trap drums. On this album, he used a lot of hard-hitting, punchy snares, so I did the same for our beat, starting with this snare and clap layered together. A lot of the bounce is coming from an extra snare that Boi-1da added, something like this. For the hats, they're used more so as ear candy, so I added these rolls playing off of the snares. Second to last, we have a kick and 808. And for one final element, I took inspiration from Energy.
I got enemies, got a lot of enemies.
The dark synth bass you can hear has a lot of movement, so I did something similar using shaper box. Now this album is full of switch ups, and I wanted to add one to our beat. I felt as though something like 6 PM in New York would fit perfectly.
I heard what's circulating, let's get to the bottom of it. I told one to send me something and I got it covered.
I wanted to make something really grand, so I started with this pulsating synth. To give it a more unique sound, I recorded it whilst playing with the filter, leaving us with this. After that, I time stretched and reversed it and chopped the chords. Then I added a bunch of effects to make it sound like the Frank Dukes sample on 6 PM in New York. Now for this half, I wanted to add some more boom bap style drums that Boi-1da loves to do. First is this acoustic snare and kick. Then we have a hi-hat and open hat. Before finally adding in this synth bass. Whilst If You're Reading This is full of hard, dark trap beats, there's also a lot of more ambient, melodic stuff on there, like the second half of No Tellin.
Envelopes coming in the mail, let her open them. Hoping for a check again, ain't no telling.
Boi-1da sampled No Talk by River Tiber. The first thing you notice is the ambient vocals. So I found this loop on Splice, time stretched it so it's slower, leaving us with this. I find having some vocals to build chords around is a great way to find inspiration. First, I added in this slightly distorted pad and layered it with something super ambient. For an extra melodic layer, I took inspiration from Star 67.
Brand new Beretta, can't wait to let it go.
There's a bell playing a singular note that adds a nice pulse to the sample, so I did something similar. Now let's move on to the drums. On the second half of No Tellin, Boi-1da again kept the same formula using a hard-hitting snare. However, I layered ours with a tonal perk. After that are some simple yet bouncy hi-hats. And I finished it off with a hard kick and synth bass. However, I wanted to add another switch up, this time inspired by a bonus track from the album, My Side.
Why you never come to West End?
To make something similar, I kept the same chords but replaced the pads with a piano. Then I layered a mallet sound on top to add some texture. And finally, there's a lead sound added by 40 that just brings everything together. As I mentioned earlier, the My Side sample is really slowed down, so to replicate that, I stretched our sample. We all know Boi-1da and 40 love using toms on these introspective Drake songs, so I added a kick with a delay and 2 different toms. Then we have a snare which doesn't have much punch, before finally adding a gliding bass line. Simple yet purposeful melodies alongside super hard-hitting drums is what makes the production on this project timeless. The beats sound so expensive and lavish, which comes down to Boi-1da's perfect sound selection, so it's really no surprise that Drake's been using his beats all these years.